Hi everyone, it's Marisa from bumblebeeapothecary.com, and today I'm bringing you along for another What We Eat in a Day video. For the dinner for today, I am making a bean soup, and in order to make the beans very digestible, I'm going to let them soak for about 24 hours ahead of time. So what kind of things you add to the water to help with the soaking process depends on the shape of the bean. I am using Great Northern beans, and to really help the soaking process be as effective as possible, I'm going to be adding a couple pinches of baking soda. So I just have my Great Northern beans in my pan here. I'm going to add filtered water to cover them by plenty because these will expand a bit as they soak. So plenty of filtered water to cover them by a couple inches at least. And then I'm going to add a couple generous pinches of baking soda. The other thing that I'm going to do is also bring some heat to this. So I'm going to bring it up to just a very light, gentle simmer and then turn the heat off. Heat really also helps in the soaking process. So just like anything related to it, beans are legumes. They are seeds, just like grains, and nuts are all seeds, and seeds really don't want to be eaten. They would really rather just grow into a plant. So in order to make them more digestible and to unlock those nutrients so that we can use them, soaking is very, very helpful. Either soaking, fermenting, sprouting. For beans, I always do this nice long soaking period. So I am starting these about 24 hours before I want to be cooking the beans. So I plan to start this around mid-morning the next day. So I'm starting the soaking process around mid-morning today, the day before. And then the soaking process, like I said, is going to be about 24 hours. And during that time, I'm going to change the water out at least twice. So I will dump the water out in a strainer, put the beans back in the pot, add fresh water, another couple pinches of baking soda, and then bring it to a very light simmer again just to heat everything up, and then let it sit with the lid on. And then the next day, they will be ready to cook. This book here, The Complete Cooking Techniques for the GAPS Diet, is a really great resource for anybody who wants to learn how to cook for GAPS, or just anybody who wants to learn all of the great cooking techniques that go with a Weston A. Price style diet, because that includes ferments, cultured dairy, meat stock, and then she also has a great section on seeds, beans, nuts, grains as well. So it's a really great resource. She has all the information about the proper soaking techniques for different types of beans, different types of seeds, all of that. So highly recommend that book, and I'll have it linked down in the description box below. And then along with the bean soup that I'm going to be making tomorrow is I'm going to also be making some cornbread, and I want to make soaked cornbread. So this is a type of cornbread that takes cornmeal and flour. And so I'm going to be soaking the cornmeal and flour, or rather fermenting it really, in some kefir. So to my mixing bowl, I'm going to add 3 cups of cornmeal and 3 cups of flour. I'm using einkorn flour. And then to that, I'm going to add 4 cups of kefir. And then I'm going to mix that together very well, put a towel on top, and then I'm going to let this sit. So I am mixing this up the evening before, so it's also going to be sitting for about 24 hours before I go to actually make it into cornbread the next day at dinner time. And then this evening of this day before the actual day where I'm going to be preparing these things, I'm also putting oatmeal to soak for breakfast. So into a pan, I'm putting 3 cups of rolled oats, and then to that I'm adding 6 cups of liquid. So it's mostly water with some kefir, and then I'm just covering that with a lid and letting that sit and soak/ferment all night. And then last thing tonight, I'm going to replace the water for the beans that I have soaking. So like I said, you just strain the water off, add new filtered water, add another couple pinches of baking soda, bring it to a light simmer, turn the heat off, and then let it sit with a lid, and then we will be continuing the process tomorrow. And I'm starting off the day today doing some juicing. We've really been focusing a lot on liver supports around here, and one of the things that Dr. Natasha from the GAPS diet recommends for liver support is GAPS milkshake. So this is basically a mixture of freshly pressed juices. So I'm juicing carrot, apple, beet, celery, and lemon. And then to make the GAPS milkshake, I'm adding some cultured cream and a raw egg, whipping that all together with my immersion blender, and then we're drinking that. Some of us are also having beet kvass as well. So the fats and the nutrients from the egg, as well as all those great vitamins and minerals from the juices, just really work together to really support the liver, according to Dr. Natasha. And we have seen some great benefits ourselves using these GAPS milkshakes and the beet kvass as well. So we have the GAPS milkshake and beet kvass first thing on an empty stomach, and then a little while later we're going to actually have our breakfast. So today we're having oatmeal. So remember, I put that to soak the night before, and after it's soaked, it really goes together very fast. It's a really fast and easy breakfast. So I just put it onto the stove top, turn the heat on high to bring it up to a boil. Once it boils, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat down to around medium low and just stir it until it thickens up. It goes really fast. And while I'm bringing it to a boil, I add some salt. Usually about 1.5 teaspoons is a good amount for this amount of oats. And then once it's really boiling and getting thicker, I will also add some butter. For this amount, I'll usually add about 1/2 cup of butter. And then we like to serve it up into bowls, add a little bit of maple syrup and some raw milk. All right, and then about mid-morning, it's time to actually go ahead and start the bean soup. So I am doing this with some pork pieces. So these are actually kind of crazy, but I tell you, they make the most delicious meat stock, the most gelatinous, collagen-rich meat stock ever. It's also really flavorful and delicious. It makes a really wonderful sort of ham hock bean soup that's really delicious, and man, those collagen benefits are really packed into this one. So like I said, these are funny cuts. They're pig's feet and pig's tails. So these are from all natural free range pork from some people that I know that raise them. You have to ask for these special cuts. Not everybody wants these, as you can imagine, but in my opinion, they don't know what they're missing out on, because this makes really amazing broth. So I have pig's feet in there, pig's tails. Now these have been cleaned very well. They already have the outer layer removed, washed, all that kind of stuff. So they're ready to go. There's nothing gross on them or anything. They're like, you know, the inside portion. So in case you're worried about that at all, it's totally clean and fine as far as that goes. So I just have them in my pot, and then I'm adding some things to them. I'm adding some onion, I'm adding some garlic, and then some parsley, some cloves, salt and pepper to taste, some filtered water, and then I am just starting these to cook. So normal meat stock making process where you bring it to a boil and then put it down to a simmer. And then I'm going to let this simmer for about 6 hours. 4, 5, 6 hours is a really good amount for this time. And then I'm going to be adding the beans a little bit later. For lunch today, we're actually doing something a little bit different. We're going to be going out to a museum, and so we want to bring lunch along with us. So I'm going to be doing one of our favorite kind of out and about lunches. So I'm making cheese sandwiches. I'm using sprouted sourdough spelt bread, and I'm making sandwiches with our raw milk cheddar. So the way that I like to do this is to put mayonnaise onto the slices of bread, add some cheese, and then add sauerkraut. It makes it really easy to just include our fermented food that way. And then along with the sandwiches, I'm making some carrot sticks. So I'm just cutting up some carrots to bring along. And then for anybody who is not eating bread who might be watching this, I just wanted to add that, don't feel sad that people are bringing along sandwiches. We have definitely done our time on gaps where we weren't eating bread, but still going out and wanting to bring lunch along with us. So what we did is we brought food in thermoses. So just so you know, we spent plenty of days bringing along gaps food in thermoses and not eating sandwiches when we were out and about. I have other videos showing this. So yeah, just so you know, you don't need to feel alone because we have definitely been there. A lot of us are at the point where we can do sourdough, so we are doing that. But yes, for somebody who's not eating sandwiches, then bringing along leftovers in a thermos is the way to go, and we've done plenty of that. And speaking of that, my youngest is not eating bread, so for his lunch, I'm bringing along this little metal lunch container. I'm bringing along some meatballs, some butternut squash, some sauerkraut for him, also some cheese sticks, and I'm also bringing along some butter as well. So then he will be having this on the go. All right, so it's been simmering for about 4 hours by now. It's looking really good, smelling really, really good. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add the beans so that they're in there to cook for about 2 hours. I'm also going to add some vegetables. So I have my beans that I have, been soaking for about 24 hours at this point, a little more than 24 hours. Replaced the water a couple times. And so I'm just going to drain those, add them to the pot, and then I'm also adding some vegetables. I like to add some celery and some carrots to this particular soup. So I'm just adding those after I've sliced them up, giving it a good stir, adding the lid, and then I'm going to let that simmer for about another 2 hours. All right, and then a little while before I'm ready to eat dinner, I usually give myself about an hour or 45 minutes or so. I'm going to go ahead and get the cornbread mixed up. So we had the cornmeal and flour soaking in kefir. I have my 2 9x13 glass baking pans that I have buttered. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the remaining ingredients to the cornmeal mixture. So I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, and 6 eggs. And then I'm just going to mix that up very well. And then I'm going to put that into my prepared pans. I'm careful to not over mix, but I do mix enough so that it's mixed well. And then last of all, I add 1/2 cup of melted butter. So I just let this melt in my cast iron skillet on the stove. And when it's all melted, I add that. So 1/2 cup of butter, and then mix that in well. And then I go ahead and pour it into my prepared pans. I put this into the oven and I allow them to bake for about 40 minutes until you can touch the middle of it lightly and it springs back. All right, and then when the cornbread is out of the oven, it's time to dish everything up. Soup is smelling so good. The cornbread is out, so I've cut one of the pans into slices. I like to cut these in half, put a bunch of butter on, and sometimes we'll have a little drizzle of honey on the cornbread as well, like maybe later on in the meal for dessert. And then we have the soup dished up into bowls. It's so flavorful and so good. It smells amazing. For bringing our sandwiches and carrot sticks along, I have these reusable silicone bags that have these little kind of zip mechanism tops, and these are really, really handy because they don't take up so much space when you bring them along. They're not heavy like glass containers would be, but they're, not plastic and not something that you're just going to throw away, so I really like them for that. So we have different sizes of them. Larger size and a smaller size, so I'm putting the carrot sticks in a larger one and then the sandwiches in the smaller sizes, and then sticking those into our insulated bag with ice packs and bringing those along. All right, I hope that you enjoyed coming along for another What We Eat in a Day video. Be sure and check out that description box for links to a lot of the different things that we like to use. I also have some brand new meal plans down there, and so make sure to check out those if you're interested. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with anybody else who you think would find it interesting or helpful. And if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I get out new videos every week on nourishing recipes and natural living. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.